It's a very good morning to you out there, and it's a great pleasure to welcome you to News at 10, reaching you live from Abuja. I am Muslima Sholebo.
And I am Usman Aliu. Many thanks for joining us. Now let's begin the news with the headlines.
As NCDC confirms 245 new cases of coronavirus in Nigeria, Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 threatens to revert to total lockdown.
What we don't want is an explosion of new infections. If we do have that explosion, there will be almost no choice left for the leadership of the country than to ask all of us to go back into our homes.
President Buhari assures ECOWAS member countries of efforts to halt spread of COVID-19.
International financial institutions to assist member states in cushioning the negative impact of the pandemic.
Sokoto State Governor Aminu Tambuwal calls for federal intervention in curbing rising cases of coronavirus in the state.
And federal government receives another tranche of Abacha recovered assets from United States and the Bailiwick of Jersey.
Report just reaching us says an accident involving a Mack tanker loaded with 50,000 liters of kerosene and a Mack tanker laden with 45,000 liters of diesel has occurred at Otedola Bridge in Wardburger, Lagos. An eyewitness account said the collision occurred due to reckless driving as the two drivers were on top speed. The impact led to the tanker loaded with diesel subsequently spilling its contents on the road. No casualty was recorded, but this has slowed down vehicular movement along the axis. Officers of the Lagos State Fire Service are on ground blanketing the affected areas in order to forestall the occurrence of any secondary accident.
Now, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, as at 11:45 p.m. 4th May 2020, announced 245 new cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria, increasing the number of confirmed cases to 2,802. Of the new cases, Lagos, Katsina, and Jigawa top the chart, with Lagos having 76 confirmed cases, 37 in Katsina, 32 in Jigawa, 23 in Kano, 19 in the FCT, 18 in Borno, and 10 in Edo states, while Bauchi recorded 9 cases. Others are Adamawa, which has 6 new cases, Oyo and Ogun states 5 each, while Ekiti, Oshun, Benue, Niger and Zamfara have 1 each. So far, 417 patients have been discharged, while the death toll is now 93.
And meanwhile, Governor Aminu Bello Masari has announced that Katsina State now has 75 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the state. Governor Aminu Bello Masari, who made this known to newsmen on Monday, said out of the number, 6 have been discharged from the isolation center at Federal Medical Center Katsina. The governor explained that of the new 37 confirmed cases received from NCDC, only 1 is from Daura, while the others are from Katsina City. He revealed that even on Sunday, NCDC took 89 samples from Daura alone, adding that with samples from Katsina, over 100 results of samples are being awaited from NCDC in the state. He announced that 14 health workers are among positive cases recorded, stressing that 10 are medical personnel from Federal Medical Center, while other 4 are from private clinics in Katsina City. On the lockdown of the Emirate Palace in Daura, he said there was nothing wrong with the action except it was being done to check the spread of COVID-19 in the state. The governor warned that government will strengthen the lockdown in Katsina and Daura as compliance was negligible. He, however, assured that government will look into the possibility of increasing spots to purchase food items and medicaments. He used the occasion to ask NCDC to consider providing a testing center in Katsina State. The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has warned Nigerians that relaxation of the 5-week lockdown could be reverted if its guidelines are not strictly adhered to.
Chairman of the task force, Boss Mustafa, says this warning has become necessary following observations of clear breaches of PTF's guidelines on the day one of easing the lockdown. Mitai Reitman reports.
This bold inscription on the podium at this PTF briefing is one of the guidelines not completely adhered to by Nigerians on the first day after the 5-week lockdown. Other noticeable violations, according to the task force, were lack of social distancing in public places and continued interstate movements despite the ban in place.
The chaotic scenes around the banks and other financial institutions indicate that there is observable high level of breaches by the citizens. The PTF fully understand the desire of Nigerians to come out to continue their lives after 5 weeks of lockdown. State governments and security agencies have, however, been advised to enforce the measures rigidly, and violators will be prosecuted.
On the part of the banks, we've also resolved that we are going to encourage the banks to restock their ATM machines so that unless you really need to be physically present at banks, you don't need to be there.
Yes, we might have a few extra infections today and tomorrow, but what we don't want is an explosion of new infections. If we do have that explosion, there will be almost no choice left for the leadership of the country than to ask all of us to go back into our homes.
The task force has continued to strengthen the capacity of the Kano state government to respond to the pandemic in the state.
The Federal Ministry of Health pathologist is also participating in the investigation of the unexplained deaths that were reported.
We have also mobilized 3,300 informants through the WHO polio program for a house-to-house search, and will be commencing a 7-day motorized campaign across major urban areas in Kano.
With about 4,000 Nigerians abroad interested in returning home, the Minister of Foreign Affairs says evacuation is set to commence.
The first flight that we hope by God's grace to have on Wednesday, Emirates, their flight from Dubai will be to Lagos.
Also, we are initiating a program of decontaminating and disinfecting our schools before they open.
Meanwhile, schools as well as places of worship are to remain closed. In Abuja, Mitaire Ikben, NTA News.
And in the meantime, Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed has identified fake news as a major hindrance in the current fight against COVID-19. The minister disclosed this at the daily briefing by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 in Abuja. Lai Mohammed explained that misinformation and fake news is stagnating all efforts being marshaled to combat the pandemic. And to this end, hence, journalists are relied upon as part of those working in the front line to deliver timely and accurate information to the populace. It is essential and critical to remain professional. He commended Nigerian journalists and their colleagues around the world for their sacrifice and hard work, describing them as indeed heroes of the fight against COVID-19, urging them not to relent in their roles in fighting COVID-19 until the disease is defeated.
And President Muhammadu Buhari on Monday participated at the online summit by the non-aligned movement, where heads of government of the movement are of the view that national, regional and global strategies will be required to tackle the pandemic.
And State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports that President Buhari at the summit assures that his administration will intensify efforts to curb community spread of the virus in Nigeria.
The coronavirus is a phenomenon that needs global efforts to solve. That's how these leaders view the pandemic, which they say has caused irreparable loss, ravaged humanity, and caused unprecedented devastation to the well-being of people, their livelihoods, and global economy. They expressed efforts of individual nations to curb the spread. But as President Muhammadu Buhari observes, it is evident that no nation can independently and single-handedly tackle the pandemic.
We must therefore form a united front against this common enemy by being coordinated and timely in our response. Furthermore, we must all encourage and empower our scientists and medical experts to join the quest for a vaccine and cure to this universal plague. In addition, we must acknowledge the central role of the United Nations and the World Health Organization in fighting the pandemic. It is therefore essential to fully collaborate and support their initiatives in coordinating the international fight against the pandemic. Such efforts should include the protection of our medical workers, the provision of medical supplies, especially test kits, and ultimately finding a vaccine to cure the disease.
The president says the task before the international community remains daunting and more needs to be done to reduce the impact of COVID-19.
In the spirit of solidarity, we must collectively appeal to international financial institutions to assist member states in cushioning the negative impact of the pandemic. In this regard, I urge them to extend concessional loans, technical assistance support, lowering of tariff on medical equipment and consumables, sharing of exercise in case management, adopting open trade policies, as well as outright debt cancellation to our member countries.
We must ensure that an effective response to COVID-19 reaches everyone, everywhere, and that they all be famous.
Exchange of medical experts and the expertise gained in the fight against the virus, sharing of information and scientific knowledge, as well as extending assistance to the countries in need, is of utmost importance.
President of the United Nations General Assembly, Tijani Muhammad Bande, pledged that his office would continue to work with the non-aligned movement to promote partnerships and galvanize the needed engagement to defeat COVID-19 and reduce its impact on communities. The theme of the extraordinary summit is United Against COVID-19 Pandemic. In the State House, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
And if you're just joining us, this is the news at 10 on NTA News 24, and we are reaching you live from Abuja. Still to come.
Federal government receives another tranche of Abacha recovered assets from United States and the Bailiwick of Jersey. Details of this and more shortly.
According to online community policing platform Check My People, they say police don't catch the house girl we carry in Madam Children run.
Want to be sure your staff is who they say they are? Let's Check My People help you with background checks. First, enroll your current domestic staff at www.checkmypeople.com using their NIN. Verify them on Check My People against the national database at NIMC to ensure they are who they say they are. If you get domestic staff from an agency, register that agency on checkmypeople.com. Document your experience with the agency and staff. Rate them on our system so others can see their track record. If you are seeking a new domestic help, verify their NIN first at Check My People. Then use their NIN to search our database to see if they have a work history, if they have committed crimes elsewhere. Wouldn't it be good to know? Remember, most crimes are committed by repeat offenders. Do your due diligence. Check My People. Trust, but verify.
It's good to have you join us again. Taking steps to mitigate the impact of the coronavirus pandemic on the nation's economy has led to the inauguration of a technical working group by the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning to draft a framework for the macroeconomic growth of the Nigerian Agenda 2050. Chimaobi Walter Naji has more.
The Economic Recovery and Growth Plan had a lifespan of 4 years from 2016 to 2020. It was introduced to help Nigeria out of its recession and launch the country on a better footing for economic growth. Despite the gains of the ERGP, the need for Nigeria to develop a blueprint for its exit from the economic impact of the coronavirus pandemic gave rise to the inauguration of this technical working group, whose aim is addressing key development challenges and development of a roadmap to guide policy formulation, plan implementation, and rigorous policy experimentation, among other things, for Nigeria Agenda 2050.
In carrying out this assignment, the team is expected to, among others, prepare a robust and broad-based macroeconomic framework to facilitate the development of the Nigerian Agenda 2050 and Medium-Term National Development Plan 2021 to 2025. Improve on the work of the technical staff of the ministry with necessary adjustments.
This new framework is expected to guide the preparation of the 2021 budget, given that the existing plan will lapse by December 2020. The TWG, led by Ambassador Yemi Dikpeolu, is expected to submit an interim comprehensive framework to the ministry not later than May 29, 2020. In Abuja, I'm Chimubi Walter Naji, NTA News.
Thank you, Chimobi. And with the ease on lockdown after 5 weeks of staying at home, many residents in the Federal Capital Territory are happy to resume their normal lives and businesses, though with little restrictions.
However, it is not business as usual as many expected from the banking sector. Alika Opanachi Arua gives a situation report on transactions by some financial institutions.
In Abuja metropolis, the restriction placed on movement to curtail the spread of COVID-19 was substantially adhered to, and even after the partial lift on lockdown by the government, many bus stops were scanty of passengers, and most of the shopping complexes remained closed. The same cannot be said of the banking environment, as many of the financial institutions were full of people wanting to carry out one business transaction or the other. But to the dismay of many, most of the banks across the Federal Capital Territory were closed for business, and the few that were open to customers only carry out skeletal operations, leading to congestions in the banks.
When we saw what was happening, how people have gathered, we suggest very innovative ideas to them. We say all of us are not here to collect our money. Give us, some of us, those who want to transfer, give us form. Who we just feel it, we give it to you anytime and at your own will. You do the transfer. They said no, they will not do that. They prefer us clustering together.
All of us are outside stranded. So we don't know what is happening. We are calling on government to intervene. Ask them, the government should tell them that they should open all the branches.
Though some of the customers wore face masks as instructed, but physical distancing was not observed, and all efforts by security agents to ensure compliance was unsuccessful.
The experience outside today is not really palatable. People try as much as possible to come out with their face mask, to come out with their hand sanitizer, to observe all different measures. But it's as good as banks themselves don't really make this work.
Some of the banks, however, were able to coordinate their customers and conduct business transactions successfully. In Abuja, Alika Opanachi Arua, NTA News.
That was very scary there, especially as it has to do with social distancing. I hope a lot of people will take note. Now, in paragraph 35 of President Buhari's speech on relaxing the lockdown in some states after 5-week enforcement in order to curb the spread of coronavirus in the country, a ban was placed on non-essential interstate passenger travels until further notice.
Absolutely, you are right. And how are transporters complying with this directive? Here is Oyeyemi Ajayi, who went round some motor parks around the FCT and files in this report.
Been much movement on the road whereby vehicles are seen going to different places, but here at the Jabi Park, here we are, the movement is not the same. The entrance is actually under lock and key. Movement in and out of the Jabi Park, and people here have actually laid tires at the entrance in order to ensure that no vehicle come in and none goes out.
Followed by Mr. President, there is no way. Our national president gave all the orders that
nobody, anything interstate, no movement. So we only come here and survive. So that we know, yes, actually, you can see it now. The gate is locked. So we only come here just to make everything in order.
It was also the same at some interstate travel parks, as some of the offices and gates were locked with no serious activities going on. But it was a different ballgame with the interstate movement, as the ease was a relief and an opportunity to earn after 5 weeks of staying at home. However, the Federal Road Safety Corps has warned motorists against flouting the directives, especially as regards the particular number of passengers a vehicle must carry at this time.
Taxi to carry not more than 3 passengers. Buses should carry, let's say, 50% passengers. Only 2 passengers in a row. While tricycle should carry 2 and motorcycle 1. We are equally involved in making sure that we go to motor parks to check whether they have devices to check temperature for hand washing and equally sanitizers.
The FRSC reiterates that only vehicles conveying goods such as agro and petroleum products, medical supplies, relief and construction materials, as well as essential services, will be allowed to travel across the states as directed by the President. In Abuja, Oyeyemi Ajayi, NTA News.
And now let's take you to Kano. The commercial activities have resumed following the partial relaxation of the presidential lockdown order to contain the spread of COVID-19 in the state.
And Elizabeth Yila Lamido went round the metropolis and reports on the happenings and the level of adherence to the COVID-19 preventive measures. Don't you think we should hear more from her?
Of course.
All right, then.
Indeed, we must.
Okay.
This is the 8th day out of the 2 weeks presidential lockdown order in Kano, issued to stem rising cases of coronavirus pandemic. The lockdown was relaxed to allow residents stock up for the days ahead. Business activities have taken off in and around the metropolis, with only 2 markets, Yankaba and Enlemu, out of several allowed to operate.
The market is good and fine, but the price does not go high. Some of them that they come from Bauchi, from Katsina, or from Zaria. So they bring different type of food items.
The price is very low, seeing that, when the supply is high, as you have seen it, the price must be low.
Also, most of the banks visited were not in operation. People were, however, seen at the ATM making transactions. The town was also crowded with vehicular movement, as well as roadside vendors making brisk business. Though it is noticed that social distancing and the compulsory use of the face mask were not observed, as people go about their businesses unmindful of the consequences.
I don't have face masks now because I forget my own at home.
Yes, I have it, but I leave it inside car.
I don't have gaskia. Meanwhile, the state lockdown relaxation order is to be observed every Monday and Thursday, 10 to 4 p.m. In Kano, Elizabeth Yila Lamido, NTA News.
We'll now take you to Uyo, where commercial activities resumed fully following the relaxation of the lockdown order by the state government. However, bank customers have been left stranded owing to the fact that most of their branches are not open for business.
Edidio Angiba reports that worrisome in the relaxation directive is that people are not abiding by the guidelines to prevent the spread of the dreaded COVID-19.
It is business as usual in the city of Uyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital, as the normal bustle of the city has returned in full force with the relaxation of the lockdown order by the state government. The number of persons on the streets is an indication of the eagerness of the people to hit the streets, especially those who make their living daily. As expected, shops around street corners, the markets and other business concerns are open, coupled with the huge human and vehicular traffic noticed in all the streets.
It was so boring, honestly. Honestly, it was so very boring, but at least today I'm just okay. I'm very happy. At least we are going out today.
It wasn't easy, It's also somebody that, somebody that has no freedom. You can see now there's a movement. At least we are happy.
It wasn't really easy, but it was for our own good. So it's okay.
I'm so happy they have opened today.
Part of the guidelines for the effective relaxation of the lockdown and restriction order are the compulsory usage of face masks in public places, maintenance of social distancing and others. While most persons are seen donning the face mask, however, it is worrisome that the message of social distancing has been forgotten, especially around the banks. The markets too are not spared, as the surge around these areas are unprecedented, considering that the lockdown has lasted for about 4 weeks, and this has raised a number of concerns.
Push everybody like that. They don't take anything into consideration. They should open. They are giving a lot of people suffering.
To curtail the number of customers inside, so that is why some people are restricted from going inside.
I just passed the bank right now, and I discovered that in fact, there's no social distancing.
We are suffering, and it's our money. We are not begging. We want to collect what we have put there.
What is left is for the proper enforcement of the relaxation guidelines to ensure that the people remain safe while going about their normal duties. In Uyo, Edidi Ongiba, NTA News.
Now, with the easing of the lockdown and gradual reopening of businesses around the country, it has become an important endeavor to safely bring goods and services without putting the populace at risk. Abdul Karim Zurume brings you up to speed on this and more on Business News. Now, what we'll do is we'll bring you more on business later on in the bulletin. Now, the chairman of Ekiti State Traditional Rulers Council and the Alawe of Ilawe Ekiti, Oba Adebanji Ajibade Alabi, has appealed to Nigerians to see the ease of the lockdown as an opportunity to return to normal lifestyle without adherence to safety rules on COVID-19 prevention.
Oba Alabi observed that while the ease of the lockdown is to save the economy, Nigerians must not forget that COVID-19 is yet to be totally defeated. Yemi Dalemo completes the report.
The traditional institution in the Ekiti State, which has been a stakeholder in carrying the message of the prevention and precautionary measures on COVID-19 to the grassroots, Oba Ajibade Alabi said we continue to play this role, including adequate sensitization and the need for the people to adhere strictly to the use of face masks, regular hand washing and use of sanitizer to win the fight against coronavirus pandemic.
There is no gain in just dying prematurely or falling victim of this COVID-19. So I want to passionately appeal to Nigerians to continue to support government in all their efforts to keep us safe in Nigeria. And by so doing, we will, at the end of this unfortunate development worldwide, we will have every reason to be glad. And
the Royal Father commended government, the frontline health practitioners and other responders in the country for their commitment, saying with more collaboration from every Nigerian, the COVID-19 pandemic will soon become a thing of the past in the country. Oba Alabi, however, urged good-spirited Nigerians to continue providing palliatives to the vulnerable, since life is not fully returning to normal during the pandemic. In Ado Ekiti, Yemi Dalemo, NTA News.
Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malemi says the Federal Republic of Nigeria on Monday, 4th May 2020, confirmed the receipt of approximately $311 million, $797,866.11 of the Abacha assets repatriated from the United States and the Bulwark of Jersey. A statement by Special Assistant on Media and Public Relations Office of the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Dr. Umar Jibril Gwandu, indicates that the amount increased significantly from over 308 billion mentioned in the press release issued in February 2020 to over $318 million because of the interest that accrued from 3rd February to 28 April 2020 when the fund was transferred to the Central Bank of Nigeria. He noted that the litigation process for the return of these assets, titled Abacha 3, commenced in 2014, while the diplomatic process that culminated into the signing of the asset return agreement on 3rd February 2020 by the various governments commenced in 2018.
And in the meantime, as part of efforts to cushion the presidential sit-at-home order, the Federal Capital Territory Administration has provided 6,000 palliative items to Gwarimpa Ward in Abuja Municipal Area Councils.
Making the presentation at Area 10 Spirit and Ekwensi Art and Culture FCT, Minister of State FCT Ramatu Tijani Aliu assured that no part of the territory will be left out. Ifeanyi Ezumba reports.
Reiterating her early call to residents and beneficiaries to return any food item not fit for human consumption instead of going to social media platforms to complain. FCT Minister of State Ramatu Tijani Aliu said the distribution to Gwarimpa Ward marks the climax of Phase 1, adding that Gwarimpa Ward is about the largest estate. There was need to put into consideration the population density and the size to ensure justice is done.
That will be able to serve the needy government support whenever the needs arises from now henceforth. We are also going to emerge with a data. So to all these supports across the 6 area council from the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria, I say thank you very much. It is your collectivity, your unity, your belief in this process that is leading to the success of this process.
Receiving the item on behalf of the council, Vice Chairman Abuja Municipal Area Council Lawrence Onuchukwu commended the FCT administration for the transparency in handling the palliative distribution.
You can see the FCT Minister of State going around the houses herself, giving this palliative to the people that really need the palliative. Nobody is diverting anything.
So we thank the residents of Abuja Municipal Area Council for their cooperation, and we are hoping that when we go for the second round, the entire area council are going to really behave well. But the only area council that we had problems with was Buhari Area Council for some obvious reasons.
Leaders from the Igbo, Yoruba and Hausa communities, including representatives from civil society organizations and youths, were on ground to support the administration. In Abuja, Ifeanyi Ezumba, NTA News.
An Enugu state government has received medical equipment including test kits, infrared thermometers and personal protective equipment as palliative from the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jeffrey Onyama, under Kosike Foundation.
Jude Abugo reports that the foundation also distributed food items worth millions of naira to indigent and vulnerable groups in the state.
The palliatives, which are part of the foundation's contribution to the fight against coronavirus pandemic, according to the chairman and Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyama, represented by Deacon Oke Obodo, will help the state government in management and treatment of COVID-19, as well as in ameliorating the hardship coronavirus has brought on the people of the state.
So I'd like to welcome all of you and ask you to make do what you've been able to provide. You may not be able to attend to all our needs, but at least yes, there is institution, the effect of stay-at-home instruction by the federal government and our state governments.
Receiving the medical items on behalf of the state government, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Health, remarked that the items, which include test kits, personal protective equipment, infrared thermometers, hand gloves, sanitizers, and medical gowns, will help the state in meeting the needs of medical personnel at the front lines of the pandemic in the state.
We've received a lot of materials ranging from the personal protective equipment gowns. It's up to 5 cartons. That translates around more than 200 pieces, which goes a long way to assuage the fears of the medical workers at the isolation centers regarding the treatment of COVID.
Other beneficiaries of Geoffrey Onyama's Kosike Foundation palliatives include some indigent members of All Progressive Congress in the state, the Red Cross Motherless Babies Home, Cheshire Home, Mother of Christ Motherless Home, Eke Widows, among others. They received cartons of noodles, bags of rice, tubers of yams, beans, vegetable oil, and toiletries.
I thank God for him, for giving him the initiative to help the poor, the vulnerable within the society.
These children cannot go out and find food.
As this man remembered them, I'm thanking him very much.
The foundation will in coming days distribute palliatives in rural communities in the state. In Enugu, Jude Abugu, NTA News.
You're still watching the news at 10 on NTA News 24, reaching you live as usual from Abuja. Up ahead.
Students in Ekiti State keep busy with radio, television and online education pending school resumption. Stay with us.
For now, the best and most efficient way to avoid getting infected is through regular hygienic and sanitary practices, as well as social distancing. As individuals, we remain the greatest weapon to fight this pandemic. By washing our hands regularly with clean water and soap, disinfecting frequently used surfaces and areas, coughing into a tissue or elbow, and strictly adhering to infection prevention control measures in health facilities, we can contain this virus.
Many thanks for being with us. Sokoto State Governor Amin Waziri Tambol has called on the President and the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 to intervene to curb the rise in cases of the pandemic in the state.
He made the appeal in a state broadcast on measures against the spread of COVID-19 in the state. Shehu Muhammad Dati tells you more about this.
Sokoto State is experiencing an upsurge in the spread of the virus, with 66 positive cases and 8 deaths. With the challenge persisting and the indices becoming worrisome, more measures have been put in place by the federal and state governments to curb the spread.
I wish to appeal to Mr. President and the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 to intervene in our state through the provision of logistics and technical support with a view to stemming the disturbing trend.
Governor Amin Waziri Tambol directed that from Monday, 4th May 2020, curfew has been imposed from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. daily. The curfew excludes personnel and staff involved in the provision of essential services. However, public and civil servants on levels 13 and above are to wear the face masks to work and all public places.
This is in addition to already existing measures declared by the state government. Fellow citizens in Sokoto State, while the government is sensitive to the difficulties these steps may cause our people, I urge us all to persevere, as these are indeed in the interest of our well-being.
The governor urged all citizens to continue to adhere to the protective practices in the interest of the well-being of all in the state. In Sokoto, Shehu Muhammad Datti, NTA News.
And now training, research and highly motivated staff remain strong pillars in healthcare delivery. These are what the new Managing Director of Federal Medical Center, Jalingo, Dr. Aisha Adamu, said, that the facility needs to stand present demands in healthcare delivery. Joseph Sound Orsen reports.
The Federal Medical Center Jalingo is the main referral hospital in Taraba State. The state relies heavily on its medical services, and it is the first point of call for almost all healthcare centers across the state with serious medical cases. This explains why maintaining international best practices should remain top priority of Dr. Aisha Adamu as she takes over as the medical director of the center. Dr. Aisha Adamu says she is up to the task, hoping to woo national and international donors to upgrade training and research, as well as boost morals of staff to uplift the hospital.
My vision is to transform FMC into a world-class health facility, operating within a conducive atmosphere, with training and research as strong pillars, and a very good support for the staff.
The board of management of this hospital, we are looking forward for greater service delivery and development that will take place in Federal Medical Center, Jalingo.
With COVID-19 threatening to overwhelm health facilities across the country, FNC Jalingo needs greater attention for it to stand the test of time. In Jalingo, Joseph Sound Otsen, NTA News.
Necessity, they say, is the mother of invention, and that is why students in Ekiti State have keyed into various initiatives that could make them regain lost grounds arising from the lockdown directive, which keep them away from classrooms.
And it seems, that after COVID-19, we're going to be seeing more of internet in activity. Don't you think so?
We should.
And as such, Ayodeji Ogunshaki reports that the School on Radio, Television and Online Platforms initiatives in Ekiti State are keeping many students very busy and on their toes pending school resumption. Let's hear more from him.
Since the outbreak of coronavirus in the country, which had also taken students of different level of learning out of the classrooms, findings shows that the situation had affected the academic standard of most students. In Ekiti State, to avoid knowledge depreciation and memory loss, the state government has keyed into the federal government initiative of alternative means of keeping students busy and to avoid losing much during the lockdown. To Akintoye Messi, a senior secondary school student preparing for WAEC, the School on Air initiative is a veritable impetus to close the gap of what many students have missed in the classrooms.
It keeps me busy. Like, instead of me listening around, I sit in front of the television and listening to what is being taught.
And it's helping us to complete the syllabus, also assisting our teachers. So by the time we resume to school, they already have a little revisions to do.
Since when we have started this program, it did not allow me to play a lot.
Since teaching and learning provide mental stimulation, improve memory and build students for academic challenge, queuing into such opportunity remains significant.
It makes them to be more serious. Not only that, it will prevent them from engaging in knowledge that can harm them.
I've actually launched a portal. We'll be loading content. There are provisions for interactive sessions to do feedback.
With the popular slogan that if someone thinks education is expensive, such a person should try ignorance, stakeholders encourage students to embrace the out-of-classrooms learning initiatives to be productive in their academic. From Adekiti, Ayodeji Ogunshaki, NTA News.
And following the relaxation of lockdown measures by the federal government, the Comptroller General of Nigeria Immigration Service, Mohammed Babandede, has directed a phased release of processed passports to applicants in strict compliance with NCDC directives on social distancing, wearing of face masks, washing of hands, and the use of hand sanitizers, among others, at the point of collection. A statement by the Service Public Relations Officer, DCI Sunday James, emphasizes that applicants will be invited in batches via SMS and will be required to show proof of such invitation, which must coincide with the date scheduled for the respective applicant before they are allowed into the premises. Any passport applicant who does not receive an SMS invitation is strongly advised not to visit the passport office until they are invited to avoid unnecessary crowding.
And talking security now, troops of Operation Lafia Dole under a subsidiary operation codenamed Kantana Jimlan have eliminated 134 Boko Haram and ISWAP members in Timbuktu Triangle and Dambuwa, Borno State. A statement by the coordinator Defense Media Operations Major General John Enenche indicates that 16 high-profile terrorists were also apprehended in the ongoing onslaught preparatory to the conclusive phase of the Operation Lafia Dole. Major General Enenche notes that 7 gun trucks and other animations were seized during the encounter that was coordinated by the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, who is in the forefront of the Operation Theater for the past 5 weeks.
Now for some sports news. 2 clubs in Germany's top 2 football divisions returned 10 positive COVID-19 results ahead of league restart, and world number 1 Rory McIlroy and other top golfers teaming up to play a charity golf match for COVID-19 aid behind closed doors. Now let's join our sports desk for more.
you.